So supporters of Lucy Letby and individuals who believe in Lucy Letby's innocence have taken to groups online discussing conspiracies surrounding aspects of the case. In this video, having personally spent time in court with Lucy Letby, I'll be sharing my own view on these conspiracies and also some of the lesser discussed evidence. So the first topic of many that I'm going to discuss in this particular episode is Lucy Letby's arrest and Lucy Letby's arrest video. Now this has led to quite the debate online regarding what Lucy Letby was wearing when she was led out of the house by the police officers. The reason that this is relevant is because Lucy Letby told the jury, "I now suffer from PTSD, I was the subject of a traumatising arrest, and the reason for that traumatisation was because I was taken out of my house at 6 a.m. and I was wearing my pyjamas." And you can see in the video, clearly she is not wearing her pyjamas. Now this has led to people twisting, turning and trying to fit pieces of information alongside what Lucy Letby said in court. Again, let's just read this here. Is it a nightie that Lucy Letby is wearing underneath a tracksuit? She was arrested at 6 a.m. One could argue the jury has been misled by a credible prosecution team when using such relevant information to prove a nurse has been harming babies. Check the video below and let us know. And it's led to people in that comment section discussing the possibility of, well, maybe that's why we've only seen the one arrest video. Maybe she was wearing pyjamas in the second arrest or during the third arrest. That's why we haven't seen the videos. That's why they've kept them secret. It's led to all this sort of conspiracy surrounding her arrest. Let's just make it clear for one moment. Lucy Letby may well be wearing a nightie underneath her Lee Cooper leisure suit, or whatever Nicholas Johnson calls it. A nightie, a nightgown, a night dress is not pyjamas. Let's just end that debate right here, right now. There's even some people in the comment section saying, I sleep in a full sweatsuit. Bearing in mind, this arrest took place in the height of summer, July of 2018, and apparently people sleep in full sweatsuits during summer, apparently. Now, just so there is no confusion about exactly what was said in court and how the cross-examination went between Nicholas Johnson and Lucy Letby, I have gone back and transcribed word for word the exact exchange between Lucy Letby and Nicholas Johnson KC regarding each of her individual arrests. Arrest number 1, arrest number 2 and arrest number 3, and what she was wearing on each and every occasion. So let there be no confusion as we go forward with this video as to what Lucy Letby was wearing, and also my opinion on why Lucy Letby gave false evidence. So before we get into the cross-examination of the prosecution asking her questions about these separate arrests, let's take a look at what Lucy Letby said. Now, in my videos, I don't put words into Lucy Letby's mouth, okay? This is what Lucy Letby said, and I can't help that. This is just the truth, the bare bones of this case. Mr. Myers, bearing in mind Mr. Myers, Benjamin Myers, is Lucy Letby's defence barrister. Mr. Myers asks Letby about her being arrested for the first time. Letby says this was like nothing she'd ever experienced before. Wiping away tears, Letby says there was a knocking on the door at 6 a.m. from police at her Westbourne Road, Chester home. At the time, her father was with her. They had no idea at all that the police were coming that day. They told me I was being arrested for multiple counts of murder. They put me into handcuffs and took me away in my pyjamas, or in her pyjamas as it's written there. After 3 days of police interviews, Letby was released on bail. She says she was not allowed to return to her Chester home and went to live with her parents in Hereford. Becoming tearful, she says the second arrest in 2019 was a mirror image of the first arrest. So let's just clarify that for one moment, because A, this is completely wrong. Becoming tearful, she says the second arrest in 2019 was a mirror image of the first. So she's claiming that not just on the first occasion she was arrested in her pyjamas, but also on the second arrest she was also arrested in her pyjamas, walked out of her house wearing her pyjamas. It was just the most scariest thing I have ever been through. It's just traumatised me. Mr. Myers asks if the trauma has left Letby sensitive to certain things. Letby replies she is now sensitive to noises and is easily startled by new things. She says she is now being diagnosed in prison by a psychologist with PTSD. So let's just take a look at the following comments here, just to see how people actually perceive this, or some people I should say. I have never heard of trying to insinuate you are a liar because you had to pull on the nearest tracksuit over your nightwear in shock and fear of the dawn knock. Also dramatic when it took them years to make up a case, or to make her look like a criminal. People have emotional memory at these times. Under duress, you would not articulate fine details. They have tried to damn Lucy, but people see through the whole charade. Bearing in mind, in my opinion, it's Lucy Letby who is making a drama out of her arrest. It's not the prosecution. It's Lucy Letby who is claiming that she is the victim here, that she was led away in her pyjamas. The prosecution aren't saying Lucy Letby was taken away in... No, Lucy Letby said that. It's Lucy Letby who's creating the drama around her arrest and now suffering from PTSD. Now, I don't doubt that she suffers from PTSD, because that moment when she opened the door was the moment that she realised that she had to now face the consequences of what she had done, in my opinion. So PTSD, I don't have any problem with a psychologist making a ruling that she suffers with PTSD. I truly believe that she now does suffer with that. But to say that the prosecution are stirring up a drama or creating a scene, no. Lucy Letby has created a drama here by making the point that she was led away or taken away in her pyjamas. And please bear in mind, before we get to this cross-examination, that Lucy Letby now states that she is suffering from PTSD due to being woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning and taken away by police wearing her pyjamas. That is a big point, a big factor to Lucy Letby in why she is now suffering with PTSD. It's not completely irrelevant because it's relevant to Lucy. Yet what Lucy has stated is completely false. So make of that what you will. Now, what I'm going to get into now is the cross-examination. What I want you to pay attention to is that at no point during this cross-examination does Lucy Letby say, hang on a minute, I've made a mistake here. That's what I class as my pyjamas. I'm sorry, that's just what I class as my pyjamas. She agrees, remember, she agrees with the prosecution that she is not wearing her pyjamas. And it's interesting that the prosecution on 3 separate occasions offer to play the videos of her arrest, and on each occasion she does not want them played to the jury. Ask yourself why that is. Ask yourself, are we looking at here someone who has created this idea that I was arrested in my pyjamas, I'm a victim, I was taken out of my home at 6 o'clock by police just wearing my pyjamas? Is that what we're looking at here? Or are we looking at someone who has simply just made an innocent mistake? This is the cross-examination. Bear in mind that I'm trying to narrate the parts of 2 people here, so do bear that in mind when you listen to the following. The following exchange starts with Nicholas Johnson. Well, just remind us about what happened when you were arrested. What do you mean? You really don't remember? You want me to describe how I was arrested? Yes, how awful it was and why it was so awful. I've already explained that once. Yes, well, that was a long time ago and I would like you to remind us, please. They knocked at my door at 6 o'clock in the morning and they arrested me. And how were you dressed when you left the house? I think I had a nightie on and then a tracksuit bottom and top and trainers. Oh, but you told the jury you were taken away in your nightwear, in your pyjamas, I think was how you put it. Yes. You were taken away in a blue Lee Cooper leisure suit, weren't you? I don't recall exactly, I just know I had a nightie on. Do you want me to show you a video of it? No. I will ask you again. You were taken away in a blue Lee Cooper leisure suit, weren't you? Yes. On the 10th of June 2019, when you answered the door, you answered in your nightie. No, I didn't answer the door in 2019. Oh, so you have got a very clear memory of this then, haven't you? Yes, I remember the arrests. But when the police came face to face with you, you had a nightie on, didn't you? I had my pyjamas on. Yes. No, you had a nightie on. Okay. Do you want to see a video? No. Do you remember having a nightie on? I can't recall specifically what night I was in bed. Do you remember what you left the house wearing? No. I know I was allowed inside to get dressed, and I think it was a dressing gown as well. Well, you put your blue Lee Cooper leisure suit on, didn't you? Yes. Then you asked them to let you put your dressing gown on over the blue Lee Cooper leisure suit, didn't you? Yes. So you weren't taken away in your pyjamas, were you? No. And you remember this, don't you? Yes. Why did you lie to the jury about it? I don't know. What advantage were you looking for by telling the jury that you were taken away in your pyjamas? What benefit was there? That's what happened on the first time. That's how quickly everything happened. No. On the first time you were taken away in your blue Lee Cooper leisure suit. Do you want to watch the video? You are a very calculating woman, aren't you, Lucy Letby? No. You tell lies deliberately, don't you? No. And the reason that you tell lies is to gain sympathy, isn't it? No. Try to get attention from people, don't you? No. And killing these children, you got quite a lot of attention, didn't you? I didn't kill the children. You're getting quite a lot of attention now, aren't you? On the third arrest, you left the house in a pink or salmon pink leisure suit, didn't you? I can't recall again, I don't know. But you weren't in your pyjamas, were you? No. Also bear in mind, what I've narrated for you there is a word-for-word transcription. There isn't one single word in what I've narrated there that is incorrect. It is all factually correct. That is exactly what was said. That is the exact exchange between Nicholas Johnson and Lucy Letby. I want to make that absolutely clear. A couple of things that stood out to me during those questions is when she answers a question which is completely irrelevant actually to the question that she was being asked. Do you remember having a nightie on? To which she replied, I can't recall specifically what night I was in bed. I don't really know what that had to do with the question. And also, what I've noticed throughout this trial is Lucy Letby's failure to really take accountability for anything. She never admits to anything in this case. Texting while in clinical areas is one example. And also, even when she's been proven in this cross-examination during this exchange that you weren't wearing your pyjamas. You were not wearing your pyjamas. Let's just get that clear. It's been proven you weren't wearing your pyjamas when you were taken out of the house. She even after she has agreed with Nicholas Johnson, she then goes back on her word. What advantage were you looking for by telling the jury that you were taken away in your pyjamas? What benefit was there? Lucy Letby's response, that's what happened on the first time. That's how quickly everything happened. No. On the first time, you were taken away in your blue Lee Cooper leisure suit. Do you want to watch the video? This is the third time he's asked her if she wants to watch the arrest video. Clearly she doesn't. And on this occasion, she doesn't even respond. There's just this sort of awkward silence of about 10 seconds where Lucy Letby doesn't even say no. She just doesn't respond at all. So ask yourself that question. Are you looking at someone here who has simply forgotten how they were arrested, what they were taken away wearing? Or are you looking at someone who is making the point that I was awoken at 6 a.m. I'm this innocent person who's been kicked out of their job, kicked out of their place of work that they loved, isolated from their friends on the unit, all that sort of stuff, and I've been startled by the police at 6 a.m. and taken away wearing my pyjamas. Is that the picture that Lucy Letby is trying to portray? Or is this just, as I said, an innocent mistake? I think for me personally, what I find frustrating about people picking up on these small details and saying, well, clearly Lucy wouldn't remember. Poor Lucy this, poor Lucy that. They're literally taking these single instances and then picking them apart and then treating them as if this is just a victim. But they're not actually looking at the bigger picture here. They're not looking at the full instances as to what has taken place during the trial. And it makes me wonder, have these people actually got a full grasp of what took place? What took place during the trial of Lucy Letby? The bigger picture, take a listen to the following. Bearing in mind we're talking again here from Lucy Letby's defence statement given to the jury. In September 2016, Letby says she received a letter from the Royal College of Nursing about the true reason for her redeployment. that she was being held responsible for the deaths of babies on the neonatal unit. She says she was putting in a grievance procedure about being redeployed. She says she did not know at the time how many babies she was being held responsible for. She says she felt it was sickening to be held as a person responsible for the deaths of babies. Quote, "I don't think you can be accused of anything worse than that. I just changed as a person. My mental health deteriorated. I felt isolated from my friends on the unit." Remember that? I felt isolated from my friends on the unit. She said she was told not to have contact with anyone on the unit other than 3 friends. 2 were nurses, 1 was a doctor. Now pay attention to that sentence. She said she was told not to have contact with anyone on the unit other than 3 friends. 2 were nurses, 1 was a doctor. What took place, and I was in court for this, so I know exactly what happened. During the last part of Lucy Letby's cross-examination, this was kind of like a 2-pronged attack. You had the arrest, the talking about what you were wearing, why did you tell the jury you were taken away in your pyjamas when clearly you weren't. But before that, he touched upon her social life. Up on the screen, up on the projector, in court, a long list, a 27-page document put together by the prosecution on the final day of Lucy Letby's cross-examination. And as I've touched upon in previous videos, this kind of resembled like an Excel spreadsheet. And it had dates of this, dates of that, dates of going out with Dr. A, shopping trips, restaurant, days out to London. But it also had her communicating and also going on nights out with people from the unit. This is during the time that she's been taken away from clinical duties. This is during the time when she's been suspended from work. And she's out on the town with these people from the unit. Just remember again what she has told the jury. She said she was told not to have contact with anyone on the unit other than 3 friends. 2 were nurses, 1 was a doctor. I felt isolated from my friends on the unit. Again, do you not see what is taking place here? It's Lucy Letby painting a specific picture of a complete load of crap. Again, Lucy Letby committing perjury during her trial. Now, just as a side note, Nicholas Johnson, the prosecuting barrister, said to Lucy Letby, "Who told you not to speak to anybody? Who told you that you could only speak to these 3 individuals?" And Lucy Letby replied, "Well, it was told to me by my union rep and also a member of the management team." And Nicholas Johnson said, "And did you abide by that direction?" And Lucy Letby said, "Yes." Lucy Letby was painting the picture in court of this poor individual who had been completely and utterly isolated and cut off from all of her friends on the unit. Quite clearly, that was not the case. It later turned out that Lucy Letby said, actually, the rules were relaxed and I was allowed to see people, but surprise, surprise, she didn't tell the jury. So I've even gone back and taken a look at the exchange between Mr. Johnson and Lucy Letby regarding what she was and what she wasn't allowed to do and how she put that forward in court. Now, Nicholas Johnson said to her, "Every single day of your cross-examination, I have said to you, is there anything that you have said that you wish to change?" And Lucy Letby said, yes, agreeing that that is what he has said. He's offered her the opportunity. So I don't want people to say, well, she was tripped up or this is a trick from the prosecution. He said to her, every single day of her cross-examination, "Lucy Letby, is there anything that you wish to change from what you have said so far?" And she said, no. And then if you go back to May the 2nd, because this is when she made this statement. Now, I've got a bit more detail probably than what is in the live reporting. But this is exactly what Nicholas Johnson said to Lucy Letby. "You told the jury from your suspension till your arrest," so we're talking about from when she was removed or suspended from the hospital until she was arrested, she told the jury, "You were not allowed to have contact with anyone from the unit other than those 3 individuals." Okay? That is exactly what Nicholas Johnson said. From your suspension till your arrest, you told the jury you were not allowed to have contact with anyone from the unit apart from those three individuals, the doctor and two of her friends who worked on the unit. If you don't believe me, go back to May the 2nd and look at what Lucy Letby told the jury, okay? It then turned out, as I've said, that Lucy Letby had gone out on multiple occasions, and I don't just mean, oh, she went out on a Saturday night. No. She was out multiple times a week. And to the point where Nicholas Johnson actually said to her, you had a very, very active social life, didn't you? And Lucy Letby said, yes. What do you make of that? Do you make of that, well, this is just a simple mistake? I mean, Lucy Letby said in court, well, I was mistaken. I mean, yes, the rules did get relaxed a little bit later on and I was allowed to see other people. That's not what she told the jury. Again, ask yourself why Lucy Letby would tell a complete and utter pack of lies. Is it to gain sympathy? Is it to portray a certain image of herself? Or is it simply a mistake? Ask yourself that question. And again, please bear in mind that I was there during that cross-examination piece, during this discussion between Nicholas Johnson and Lucy Letby for the 6-7 hours that her last day of cross-examination lasted. I was there for the entirety of it. So what I'm saying here, I can absolutely guarantee you that word for word what I have said to you is the absolute truth. I don't get any mileage whatsoever in putting out there any sort of false narrative, anything like that. I'm just interested in providing people with a little bit more of an insight as to exactly what took place and to try and look at this in the totality of the evidence, not just one single example of, oh, okay, the prosecution are picking on Lucy here because she forgot what she was taken away in. It all forms part of a bigger picture. It all forms part of who Lucy wants to be portrayed as. And I think that's really, really important. That when we look back at some of the other instances, even the smaller ones, such as Lucy Letby texting when she was supposed to be feeding a child, and they looked at the timings and they said, well, you couldn't have been sending that message from outside a clinical area because you were feeding this child or you were doing X, Y, and Z. It was basically pretty much proven to a certain level that Lucy Letby must have been in a clinical area when she was texting her friends or texting her colleagues. And yet she completely and utterly denied this. No, I would never, ever text in a clinical area. Yet there was a hell of a lot of evidence which told you otherwise. And then we had the example with the handover sheets. Does anybody remember Shreddergate? The shredder that's clearly visible in Lucy Letby's spare bedroom. When Lucy Letby was asked in police interview, you've got all of these handover sheets here. How would you usually dispose of them? Well, I would use a shredder. Have you got a shredder, Lucy? No, haven't got a shredder. Yet they found that she even said that she'd used a shredder to shred bank statements. Now, come on, people. Please look at all of this information. Don't just pick one little bit about Lucy Letby's clothing choice or what she did or didn't wear. Look at how this person portrays herself. Look at the lies that this person is able to tell. Clear lies. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is just facts. Lucy Letby was arrested and they said to her, why have you got all these handover sheets? And she said, they have come home with me. Again, it's a lack of accountability. She didn't say, oh, I've taken them home by mistake. It's my fault, blah, blah, blah. Even when Mr. Johnson was talking to her about these handover sheets, she used very interesting terminology or a very interesting phrase. She said, they have come home with me, or they have come home with me, as if they've got a mind of their own, these handover sheets, and they've sort of jumped into her pocket or hidden themselves, buried themselves in her bag, and she has then taken them home with her. And he had to correct her and said, you took them home. And eventually she had to agree to that point. But you can see the mentality of someone like that. She doesn't want to be proven wrong on anything, on any aspect. And again, the handover sheets. Why have you not disposed of them, Lucy, in police interview? Oh, I don't know, I don't have a shredder. Yet there's a shredder sitting in her house. Now, this wasn't part of a cluttered room or anything like that. There was a shredder sitting in her spare bedroom that she admitted that she bought for the purpose of shredding bank statements. So she knew she had a shredder, yet she lied during police interview. Now, probably one of the more worrying cases of Lucy Letby falsifying documentation and really just being a liar, to be perfectly honest, comes in the form of Lucy Letby's own training. Now, you can see here on May the 31st, 2015, just a week before she begins her attacks on these children. Surprise, surprise, Lucy Letby completes a test or some form of examination or some form of course on administration of medications via a long line and the dangers of air embolus. You can see it here, official documentation. Now, when we go back to what Lucy Letby then said in police interview when she was arrested on the first occasion, she said she didn't know exactly what an air embolism was. Now, interestingly, this all connects to when Lucy Letby first realised, I guess, or it really became apparent to Lucy Letby that something was taking place here at the hospital in terms of their concerns about Lucy Letby, because she received a telephone call telling her not to come in for her night shift, and she was then going to be put onto days, and this absolutely terrified Lucy Letby. And this was shown in the text messages which were shown in court. She was speaking to Dr. A, and she was saying, I've just had a phone call and they're moving me. Why are they doing this? What's going on? I'm really worried. I'm having a meltdown, plus. In her words, she was in court. This is what she said. I was having a dramatic meltdown just because she had received a telephone call from her manager telling her to not come in for that night shift. It really, really terrified her. Anyway, there's this exchange between her and the doctor. And one thing that stands out in my mind before we get onto the main point is that Nicholas Johnson said, what were you doing in those 12 minutes? Because there was a gap of 12 minutes when Lucy Letby was texting this doctor and she was saying, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I can't talk about this now. You could tell she was really, really flustered. And there was a 12-minute gap. And then the next message she sent back to him was, I'm really sorry, that was rude of me, blah, blah, blah. And there was a 12-minute gap. And Nicholas Johnson said, what were you doing in those 12 minutes? And I remember sitting in court thinking, you knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly how you felt at that time, because this was the moment, even if she's innocent, let's just say she's innocent for one moment. The way that she behaved during that text exchange told me personally that she was having a complete and utter meltdown. In her own words, a dramatic meltdown. So even if she's innocent, let's just say that for argument's sake, she was concerned about something, and she would have remembered what happened in those 12 minutes, how she felt, because it was the moment of realisation. It was just imagine if you're told some terrible, terrible news. You would remember what happened, what you felt, what you did. You'd have a fair idea of what took place. And Nicholas Johnson said, what were you doing in those 12 minutes? And she said, I can't answer that. And I thought to myself, you know exactly what you felt. You knew exactly what you did in those 12 minutes. I didn't buy that for a second. And she just didn't want to entertain going back to that place and thinking about what happened. It just really stood out to me. Anyway, why this is important is because around about 3 days after this text conversation with the doctor, Lucy Letby goes to work. And Lucy Letby is looking after this baby in the neonatal unit. And 7 hours into her shift, she's administering medication, and she notices that there's a bung missing off of one of the ports on the medical equipment. Now, Mr. Johnson said to her, do you look at the babies that you are treating? And she said, yes. Do you look if the bungs are missing off of the IV? I think he said the IV access to these babies. And she said, yes, I should have noticed it soon. Really, really flustered. Because Nicholas Johnson was saying, you've been tending to this child specifically. You're the person who's been administering medication to this baby throughout your shift, yet you're only notifying that there's an issue 7 hours into your shift. And surprise, surprise, you've now filled out a Datix form. Now, a Datix form is a form that you would fill in if there's some sort of medical equipment issue. It's like a reporting kind of thing, reporting form. And she filled out this Datix form saying there's a bung missing off of this line, which could cause an accidental air embolus. The thing that she was accused of and found guilty of, she's now creating a false narrative around that specific event. And to me, I'm sorry, she did that on purpose. I mean, how can you look at this? I really don't see how you can look at the totality of all of this evidence and think, yeah, this poor girl, she's completely innocent. I mean, it's just crazy. She said, her words were, no, that's what I found. And then Nicholas Johnson said, you removed the bung. It's a bit of an insurance policy going on here, isn't there? That's what he said. There's a bit of an insurance policy going on here, isn't there? She said, no, that's what I found. And he said, what, 7 hours into your shift, when you're the only person administering medication to this child, when you look at the equipment that you're using and you look at the baby that you're treating, you only found that it's missing a bung 7 hours into your shift. And surprise, surprise, could cause a risk of infection and accidental air embolus. So let's take a look as to what was spoken about in court regarding Lucy Letby's knowledge of air embolus. Before I touch upon that, let's just make the point here that Lucy Letby finished her training, finished that course regarding the dangers of air embolus and IV lines and IV line medication and administration, all that sort of stuff. She completed that training 1 week before these attacks. So 1 week after Lucy has passed these exams and has been moved to room 1, she's got all of this knowledge regarding how lines work, this, that and the other, babies start appearing with air inside them. Is that just a coincidence? Ask yourself that. Anyway, back to what was said in court. Letby is asked about her training, which when completed allowed her to care for intensive care babies. Letby is asked if that meant she would have had access to room 1 more often than before. Letby agrees. The training involved education about lines, access and the complication of air embolus, the court hears. Letby said she had heard of air embolus by the time police interviewed her. Wasn't really what she said in police interview though. She tells the court all staff know that air introduced can lead to death. Nicholas Johnson then said everybody knows the danger of air embolus, to which Lucy Letby replied, I can't speak for everyone. Letby had been asked what the dangers of air embolus were, and she had not known. Again, that is what is stated in Lucy Letby's police interview, and that is what is referring to there. That is what it's referring to there, I should say. Letby had been asked what the dangers of air embolus were, and she had not known. Nicholas Johnson said, were you playing daft? Lucy Letby replied, no, every nurse knows the dangers. Letby said she did not know how an air embolus would progress, but knew the ultimate risk was death. So again, I ask you just to take a step back and look at all of this evidence in combination. Not just one piece and pick apart certain pieces and accuse the prosecution of creating a massive drama. The only person who created the drama regarding Lucy Letby's arrest was Lucy Letby herself. Let's just get that clear. And again, let's start again from the social life, a life of isolation, solitude, cut off from her friends and family on the unit, as she called it, mental torture, all of these notes, this is how I felt, this, that and the other. When during that time period, she was out getting pissed with her friends. I'm sorry, that is what I saw in court. That is just what happened. It wasn't a case of Lucy Letby not being able to speak to people as she portrayed to the jury. And again, it's important here that we talk facts in this case. What Lucy Letby actually claimed. Has Lucy Letby committed multiple counts of perjury here? I mean, that's a factor on its own. How trustworthy is Lucy Letby, the individual? So completely and utterly isolated from all of her friends and family on the unit, other than Dr. A and 2 of her close friends who worked on the unit. Everyone else, I wasn't allowed to speak to them. I wasn't allowed to speak to anyone on the unit from my time of suspension from the hospital until her arrest. Not just a few months, you're talking about a long, long time period here that Lucy Letby is portraying to the jury that she is being cut off from her friends and her support network. That was completely and utterly false. Again, are we looking at here someone who is portraying a victim, or are we looking at someone here who has just made an innocent mistake? Then the arrest. I was arrested at 6 a.m, there was a knock at the door and I was taken away in my pyjamas. The 2019 arrest mirrored the first arrest. Yet Lucy Letby was not taken away in her pyjamas. Please do not write in the comment section and say, well, a nightie, a nightgown, a nightdress is pyjama. No, it's not. Don't try and bend and twist and fit your little ideas just to follow your narrative. Not interested in it. Not interested in that at all. What I am interested in is looking at the facts and how they relate together, how they work in combination with each other. And then finally, possibly the most worrying piece of evidence which exists, or one of them that exists in this case. And that is Lucy Letby's fluctuating knowledge of air embolus, which actually turns up in a lot of this case concerning the babies and how they were actually attacked. So do we believe it's just a mere coincidence that Lucy Letby is having, in her words, a dramatic meltdown just because she's received a phone call telling her not to come in for her night shift? I mean, would you behave like that if you were just asked to start day shifts and not nights? Would it cause such a dramatic reaction in somebody who had nothing to hide? Ask yourself that question. I mean, this wasn't someone who had just said, well, that's a bit weird. I wonder why she's asking me to do that. She actually completely lost her mind. What type of meltdown were you having? Well, according to this text message, quite a dramatic one. And I always remember that part in court. Again, I don't think I've discussed this part. But this was, it was a part that stood out to me. Nicholas Johnson said, well, he's looking at text messages and he said, well, what kind of meltdown were you having? And a text message said, from Lucy Letby to the doctor, I'm having a meltdown ++. And she said, well, according to this text message, quite a dramatic one. And then Nicholas Johnson said, what was dramatic about it? And there's this sort of silence. It goes on for about, 5 or 6 seconds. And Lucy Letby said, where have I said that? What do you mean it's dramatic? Where have I written that? And then he said, you said it about 20 seconds ago. I said, what type of meltdown were you having? And you said, according to this, quite a dramatic one. And then she's like, oh yeah. I mean, it's not normal. It's not normal to have a phone call at that time in the evening telling me not to come in for my shift. You could tell she was rattled by what had happened. The fact that she had received this telephone call from one of her managers. She knew that something wasn't quite right, that they were onto her, basically. So do we believe it's just a mere coincidence that 3 days after that event, after this event, which really kind of shook Lucy Letby, that she's in work and 7 hours into her shift, she notices that a bung is missing off of a piece of the medical equipment. And she filled out a Datix form. She actually filled this out in her own words. It was shown in court. And she had written, it could cause a risk of infection or accidental air embolus. Then when she's arrested, well, I don't really know what an air embolus is. Yet when they show in court, oh yeah, I did do a course a week before these attacks began on the dangers of air embolus. Come on. Are we really looking here at someone who is completely innocent, a completely truthful individual? I am not here to, make you believe one thing or the other. I'm just here to present the facts as they were told in court, and I think ultimately you can make up your own mind. As always, many thanks for joining me for this video. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe down below for future content regarding this case. And very shortly, you'll be able to see the Lucy Letby playlist, which has all of the videos that I've created regarding the trial and the case of Lucy Letby, all in one convenient folder. Many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.